Hello and welcome to TelecomTV. My name is Martyn Warwick. We're here at day 2 of Mobile World Congress and I'm talking with Jim St Ledger from Intel. And Jim, this is quite a techie little interview here because we're going to talk about the speed of efficiency in packet-based networks and so on, and multi-core processors and that kind of thing. The point is, this is a technology which is enabling NFV, which is of course the flavour of the month and the year.
That's correct, Martin.
Where do we start with this? Tell us first of all about what you do at Intel and why it's important to networking.
Okay. So first let me tell you a little bit about myself, right?
Sure.
So I've been at Intel, I guess 15 odd years or so, always in the embedded and telecom space. My role at Intel is a little bit of an outlier in that I'm a software guy in a silicon company. But if you've been watching Intel, you've seen we're doing a tremendous amount of work in software space, from Internet of Things to cloud, to comms infrastructure, mobile devices, etc. So software certainly is in our core, just not something I think people associate Intel with, but they're learning.
Right.
And then what I need to do to sort of make the connection to where we're at today and all the discussion around network functions virtualization is bring you back about 4 years or so, almost 5 in fact. If you look at most of the equipment gear today in the marketplace, people out there using dedicated hardware solutions, so network processors, comms processors, ASICs, etc., to move packets or packet workloads, data plane, etc. And of course, the challenge with those and the squeeze that the operators are having with equipment based on that is that they're fixed function. They have one task and that's pretty much all they do. They do it very well, but that's all they can do. We've had people approach us over the years about, could I use Intel architecture for this? And about 5 years ago, we came to a conclusion internally that between some of the silicon advancements we were doing, combined with some software development we did internally through our software architects, we had a path forward to move those high-performance packet workloads and data plane workloads onto Intel architecture. And out of that came a program that I'm running called the Intel Data Plane Development Kit. And we also call it DPDK, because we're big on acronyms, as the industry is, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
EPC, RAN, etc. So what DPDK allows you to do is to run these data plane workloads on a common multi-core platform such as Intel architecture. And the challenge for us historically has been small packets. And of course in comms, that's sort of the litmus test, right? How do you do it on 64-byte minimum size packets? And so now we've got extremely high acceleration rates for that. In fact, our numbers are showing 10x to 25x performance improvements using DPDK on Intel architecture for these packets. And the reason I say to bring you back, as I mentioned, we've been doing that 4+ years now. DPDK has been out there in the industry. We've been evolving it, advancing it, etc. And that's really a foundational element to NFV. And that now you can take these former workloads that ran on ASICs, etc., and move them to a standard high-volume platform, such as an HP server, for example. And using DPDK, you can have those run at the right rate. And so it's been a foundational enabler for NFV.
So, as far as I'm concerned, we first heard properly about SDN NFV October-ish 2012, and then there was the big hype curve last year, and then things seem to have settled down since about this last October, and now we're in February 2014, and it seems as though there's some real substance underlying what used to be the hype, and that some parts of the network are actually ready for real NFV and SDN. But it seems to me that that is currently at the edge of the network rather than in the core. Is that the case?
I think what's happening, to some degree, I guess I'd agree with you. What we're seeing, though, is that the core certainly is getting engaged as well.
Really?
You know, I was talking to the folks from AlcatelLucent yesterday, who, of course, there was an announcement on Sunday between Intel and AlcatelLucent about a deep technical collaboration to advance NFV. And in conversations, really, people have said, well, what's the focus? And the focus really is to advance the technology, to move people forward on it. And there's a couple things there. So projects there, for example, are working on both the radio area network and virtualizing that. So vRAN, working on Evolved Packet Core, VEPC there, and of course working on IMS as well as a virtualized implementation. So there's quite a few virtualized DPCs you'll see out there already, and adding more onto those really starts ticking off, the workloads and the areas and devices that need to be done to convince the carriers that, hey, NFV is ready to go for you to either trial or start deploying it.
And what about the sort of proof of concept that we're seeing from various manufacturers and in various networks now? Can you tell us about any trials that you know about or any events that are taking place which actually prove that the new technologies, the new packet technologies, the cloud, etc., can work together to provide SDN and NFV in a reliable inexpensive, or at least economic way.
Yep. Well, there were several that we announced, in if you saw the Intel press briefing, Renee James talked about a few.
Yeah.
What's interesting is, you hear a lot of discussion around proof of concept.
Absolutely.
And what I find a little bit humorous is the fact that a lot of our partners have advanced beyond proof of concept. They're ready for commercial deployment. Right, they've moved from the trial stage, from the past 2 years or so, working on it internally, working sort of under NDA partnerships with vendors, out of the public eye, and now turn them into commercial deployments. So companies like Wind River and Tieto, have solutions and components that fit into there. There's many other software vendors out there as well. Companies like Brocade have virtual routers that are commercially deployed today in many cloud instances. So there's a lot of activity going on. I think we're actually ready to move from proof of concept to trials and really start speeding things along here.
And the collaboration that you're seeing is, I know, virtues of a necessity, making a virtue of a necessity among companies in the past wouldn't have spoken to each other. Certainly wouldn't have worked closely together. But do you think the collaboration we're seeing within the industry in general on the emergence of the evolved network, the cloud network, cloud-based network, all IP networks, and SDN and NFV, do you think that collaboration is going to be part of the fabric of the industry going forward?
So I think there's two things in that area, right? The one is, what we call co-opetition,
yeah.
which is, the reality is there's people you're going to partner with on one hand, and the next day you'll compete with them on the other. And I think everyone openly acknowledges that. That's in many areas that's been part and parcel of this industry and will continue forward.
Right.
At the same time, the collaboration is driven because we've all seen what NFV could do. We've seen how it can help the service providers both managing their CapEx and OpEx of their networks, as well as trying to capture, the holy grail of monetizing those services, right? They're constantly fighting the over-the-top battles. You hear the network neutrality fights all the time.
Yep.
If they can get to a path where they can quickly deploy services, monetize them,
yep.
I think NFV can do it for them, and that'll help them tremendously. To do that, it's going to require collaboration across the board.
Sure.
So there are tremendous ecosystems that are out there, many different types of software vendors out there, OSS, BSS, every kind of physical appliance moved to a virtual appliance that's out there, load balancers, firewalls, IPS, you name it, all those vendors have to work together, make sure their solutions can run in virtual machines on the standard platforms that can be deployed, plus the cloud models.
Final question to you then, as far as NFV and Intel is concerned, the commitment from Intel to NFV is complete. Are you ready to roll yet?
Absolutely, right? We've got NFV solutions. There's many demonstrations on the show floor you'll hear. I would say that on the equipment side and from Intel's viewpoint, we're ready. We just need the carriers to get on board now and move it forward.
Great stuff. Jim St. Ledger, thanks very much indeed.
Martin, thank you.